So we're now going to get onto our final panel of the day, and it's something that's super exciting because we are going to build on the work that was done yesterday at the tourism workshop and also build on a panel that we did last year. And this is all about how to craft a compelling route development strategy. How do you get more airlift into your destination? What are airlines looking for from a opportunity from the meetings this afternoon? So to guide you through this session is somebody who's been at every AviaDev since the start. He helped me create the AviaDev Run, the Ambassador Program, and AviaDev Real Estate as well. Marcel Langeslag is much more than just an airport master planner and engineer. He also cares deeply about supporting African aviation development. And he's got a really wide, broad understanding of the operating environment, which makes him absolutely perfect for this panel. So take your time because Susie's going to play you up, Marcel. But Marcel, come join us.
Wow, what a lovely interlude. Great start to this panel session. While I introduce it, I would like to invite the panelists to come on stage in the meantime. I do realize that we are standing in between you and lunch, not an enviable position, but somebody's got to do it. And the panel that we have will make it absolutely worth your while. We've got some really great speakers here. Thank you for joining. Carlos, Bernd, Kirby, Bisey. Today we're going to take it back to the, as John was saying, the root and the core of AviaDev. It's all about the route development. It's all about enhancing connectivity on the continent and between the continent. And we have a great panel to do so. We've got two airports on the panel, two different airport groups, neighbors, yet with very different development paths and positions where they are in terms of their route development. We've got two airlines on the panel, also with very different profiles. One European airline, big in intercontinental traffic, and a local airline very much on domestic and regional connectivity. So really good to get different insights on the topic and to build on what was already discussed this morning in terms of what's needed for profitable airline operations. Well, what's needed is good routes, of course. Let's talk about that. To get you all involved, we have a poll. If I could ask that the poll is put up and you all open your Slido on your mobile phone. And please help us by submitting your answers. The poll will remain open while we talk, and then we'll return to the results at the end of the session. So the question that we have for you today about route development initiatives, who should take the lead here? In your view, who should lead the route development efforts? Is it the tourism bodies? Is it the airports company or civil aviation authority? Or investment agencies or chamber of commerce? So please submit your votes. Like I said, we'll come back to the results at the end. I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing the panel. You can refer to your programs and the delegate guides that have extensive profiles on their illustrious careers. I want to dive straight into it, and actually to get started, I think we'll start on the ground and we'll start close to home. Bisey, thank you for having us here in Namibia. We know that you have been quite active in route development over the last few years. You mentioned the Connectivity Forum a couple of years ago, and obviously we're all here at AviaDev now. Can you tell us a little bit more about your route development activities and the approach that you're taking?
No, thank you very much. And of course, we are very excited to see all of you here in Namibia. As a fairly small country in terms of the population, we are of the view that at the Namibia Airports Company, we need to work together with all the key stakeholders to develop our airport and our country. And we believe that in terms of our route development initiatives, it's not really only developing the opportunities for the airport, but we see a national need for us to attract travelers to our country, both for the benefit of the airport, but also for the greater economy, for the tourism sector. And it is for that reason that we have initiated a very collaborative approach in our route development initiatives. whereby we are working with all the key stakeholders. And this includes the key stakeholders in the tourism sector, it includes the business chamber, it includes some key government initiatives or ministries, and of course, some of the main town councils or city councils. We believe that an opportunity to bring visitors to our country should be owned by all of us from these various sectors, and it has worked extremely well over the past couple of years. We started with this initiative at the Aviation Forum that took place about 18 months ago, and since then we have seen great developments, great opportunities, great networks that we have developed over the time, and we have started to see the results also because of that. And everybody is playing his or her part. All the entities are coming to the party. As we have seen, the tourism entities have significantly attracted interest of various tourism bodies all over the world, bringing people to Namibia, which of course benefit us as an airport. Therefore, I think for us, collaborative effort with all the key stakeholders is absolutely necessary for us to have an effective route development initiative.
Excellent, thank you. Great to hear right off the bat, multi-stakeholder approach, collaboration, excellent. Staying on the ground for a moment, moving next door to the neighbors. SGA, perhaps not the most well-known airport operator in the room, and also quite a new company, I believe, but you have a substantial portfolio of airports under your control. Could you give us a bit of an introduction as to SGA? What are you about? What airports do you look after? And what's your approach that you're taking?
Well, thank you very much. And good morning, bon dia. Yes, SGA will make next 5 of July 5 years old. So we are a very recent company, but we are we in Angola government we are in a very deep economic reforms that started 2019. We had a company called ENANA, and this company was split in two. SGA, that manages all infrastructure, airport infrastructures, and ENA that manages the air traffic. As well, our national authority, aviation authority, was created at this time as well. And our first challenge was the pandemic. So it was a very, very nice start. But, well, now we are recovering. We manage 17 airports, and we are 3 more airports to come. One of them, it's public, it's the new Luanda airport that will start in the end of this year. In the end of 2025, airport of Mazakongo in the north of the country, and a new airport that is will start the construction in Cabinda to support the oil and gas companies and industry. So we are effectively we are in the process of certifying 3 airports: Katumbela in the province of Bengala, Namib in the province in the same name, and the airport of Lubango, exactly to create and to develop the touristic development of our touristic board, aligned with our national authority, with our national tourist agencies, and the government as well. And so a lot of it's going on in Angola. It's a lot of things going on, and we are here to learn with the best. And I'm glad to see that Namibia it's an excellent reference for us, because we are not competing, we are partners, and we want to go far together.
Very good, thanks. So still early stages, I guess, in terms of route development, but good to hear that the different stakeholders are already on board, and even talking about collaboration across the borders. That's excellent. Yeah.
Yes. In case of, as I said, we are still in the very early stage of development, but we make some important agreements with worldwide known companies. For instance, we have a technical agreement with Shanghai International Airport that is helping us to redefine, review our national strategy, our Uirab strategy to to put Angola in the market. This morning we saw some images of countries that have liberated visas to other passports, but was missing. Angola was missing because since September last year, Angola has no visa entry needed for 98 countries. 13 of them are African countries as well. This is to promote investment, to promote tourism, and all the reforms that Angola government is making. It's exactly the government is stepping down and letting room for private investment and to be part of development of the country. We are starting very late, we know, but we started.
That's a good first step. Yeah, excellent. Bernd, moving over to you. Your airline is one of the biggest airlines operating in Namibia, which is great to see. I'm sure a lot of the audience members here have flown in on your airline. How has Namibia been for you as a market, and how has it been working with the NAC as a partner for developing this route?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having us. This shows that sustainable route development is possible, because we started off about 3 years ago with few frequencies, 3 frequencies a week, and we are now up to 10 frequencies a week flying into Windhoek. Great success for us, which wouldn't be possible without the support of all the stakeholders in the country, be it the airports, be it, let's say, politics, be it the travel agency community in the country, but also at our source markets. So, and I think we rely very much on this support as an airline, but we rely also very much on the country, the attractiveness of the country. We rely very much on the communication of the country, of the tourism boards of the country in our source market, so that we can fly many passengers into Namibia. So I can say for us a great success story. Frankfurt Windhoek, now expanding even our operation to another route, Munich Windhoek, so that we have 2 starting points for the operation into Namibia.
Very good. Great success story to be telling here in Namibia. Excellent. Kirby, moving over to FlySafair, well known as a very strong domestic operator in South Africa, but also present as a regional operator in Southern Africa. What can you tell us about your experience in terms of expanding into the continent and developing new routes and engaging with these destinations?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a phenomenal growth journey for us over the last 3 years or so to move out of the boundaries of South Africa and into the region largely. I think we've been very warmly received, which is great. You know, I think applying our business model to the game changes the parameters slightly in terms of what's there. I think we're less in a sense about route development and almost more about route advancement, if that makes sense, in terms of the way that we apply our model to the particular routes. And so we've seen a sort of democratization across a lot of routes, obviously some very favorable price points and a lot of very warm reception from those markets. So it's been wonderful, and it's been wonderful learning and growing as we move through this process.
Great. And good support from all of the destinations that are obviously happy to welcome you into their country? Very much so, very much so. And it's an ongoing thing as well. You know, there's obviously the establishment in the beginning when you set up your actual operations and you're looking for your partnerships there and you're working with regulators, et cetera, et cetera. But then there's the kind of evolution that goes beyond that point when you start really doing active business in the markets, and you need to continue to make sure that you can align your strategies and ensure that there's a full value chain that is there to serve your customer, your kind of customer, from the beginning to the end of their journey. And I think that's where we've seen the most success, is in operations and in opportunities where we've had those kinds of engagements. Sure, yeah. Bernd, does that sound familiar? I mean, you also operate in other destinations in the continent. Have you received good support? And if you are looking to expand a route network, what do you look for in a destination?
I mean, clearly we are, to determine which routes to operate, you have to be very sure about your business model. You have to be very sure about what kind of customers do you want to attract. Typically, we are a leisure airline. We are a vacation airline. We are designing our route network according to the demand in our home markets at the first point. And secondly, we are looking into the airport, the attractiveness of the countries, and then the hurdles we would have in the country to operate. So I think that's a very critical part. So the framework has to be in a way that we can easily access the country, easily fly into the country, easily make our guests travel in the country and enjoy the vacation in the country. I think that's a very critical part, and for this collaboration with the multiple stakeholders is of utmost importance.
So specific criteria that you would look for when you engage with a destination for the benefit of some of the destinations in the audience? What are the, let's say, the top 3 things that you look for?
Yeah, definitely. So it starts with, can we access the airport with our planes? We are operating the wide bodies, so that's not always possible to all the airports.
Is the infrastructure
available? That's the infrastructure from an airline perspective. Then, secondly, is the infrastructure in place for our guests, meaning transportation in the country, meaning hotel infrastructure, meaning also the regulatory framework. Does it allow an easy travel for our guests? Visa was just mentioned, is one of the critical criteria. And then, and not to forget, is a continued support from all the stakeholders in the country, once versus us as an airline, so that we build sustainable partnerships also with interline partners or co-chair partners in the country, but also with the CVBs, with the airports, that we get the support to start up a route. I mean, there's a huge investment involved to start up a route, and we typically start with few frequencies and build it up over a longer period to then hopefully a successful operation. But this also means that the support has to be over a longer time period. Right. So it doesn't help us to have a one shot at the beginning. We need a continued support and a continued partnership over a longer time period. And we experienced this here in Namibia, and you can see where it took us. Within 3 years, we built up wide body operation from 3 times a week to 10 times a week. We flew or on our flights, we flew now 600,000 passengers in these few years from and to Namibia. And this shows that the continued support and the commitment of the country is also important to make a route successful at the end.
Yeah. Great. What I'm hearing both you and Kirby say is that it's not just a launch, it's also the continued support and collaboration to continue building the route and making it sustainable. From your perspective, Bisey, sitting on the other side of the table, how do you support airlines? What do you offer them, and how do you make sure that this is the partnership is a sustained success?
Yeah, if you look at the type of travelers that come to our country, particularly from European countries, you find a lot of tourists coming to our country. Obviously, business people and others coming for family reasons and so on. Therefore, looking at the profile of the tourists that are coming, we feel it's important that we engage with the industries that are supported by these travelers. And we, on a continuous basis, engage with the tourism bodies. Number one, to make sure that the infrastructure that they operate is up to standard. That we also ensure that in terms of the visa regime, that this is favorable. And we are on a continuous engagement with authorities to make sure that our travelers and our visitors do receive favorable support from that perspective. We also engage with the investment board, for example, to make sure that for business travelers, when they come to the country, that they receive what they would require, both in terms of, again, visa regime, but also some of the supporting initiatives, engaging with the business community around here, meeting with the banking industry, or the governments and so. So we are in a continuous engagement with all the key stakeholders to make sure that our visitors that come through our airports are well taken care of. The issue of visas is a major issue for us, and we would not want to see our customers coming through the airports to get clogged up. Therefore, that continuous engagement with the relevant authorities is absolutely necessary. Also, with the airlines, we make sure that the support they get on the ground is favorable to their requirements, working with the service providers like the ground handlers, and then others who are providing various services at the airport should also be to an acceptable standard, and we engage on a continuous basis. Should there be any challenges that they are facing with any other service within the country, we will probably be the first port of call to engage with them, to make sure that we open doors for them to ensure that their problems are well addressed. So for us, it's very important, that issue again of collaborative engagement to open doors for all of us. We also work very closely with the regulator, for example. Should there be any regulatory challenges that could be impediments to our travelers coming here, we would ensure that those engagements do take place, that we open doors for them to have that open door engagement to make sure that we also address those concerns that they have.
Okay. So in a way, you act as a central point of call for the airline to have the support of all of the stakeholders in the country.
Yes, we do that. And also, in terms of the question here, I will probably be biased. We will see the results at the end of the day. But I think the role of the airports company is so critical because they are almost the meeting point of all the role players around this industry. Therefore, I think it makes it obvious for us to play that coordinating role.
Great. Carlos, no doubt a lot of these things you're hearing are also part of your plans. Are there any specific developments you're working on to position Angola and to attract new traffic to your airports?
Yes, we are, but we have another challenge that it's among our reality. It's that to create content in our touristic destinations. We are leading the way with our national touristic agency, exactly to sensibilize all the actors of this ecosystem, the need of more diverse content, hotels, resorts, activities, etc. More competitive prices, because we have prices very high at this moment, and we have to create some kind of incentives to put the prices lower, and of course increasing the quality of the solutions. So that's our way. First, we have to create content, because I can have the airport operational, functional, everything very, very beautiful, but airport is just a entryway. So we are working on creating the content first, and simultaneously knowing what is the needs of airlines, of touristics, because in Angola we have to offer natural resources and natural beauties. What we have to offer, we see in Namibia, we see in South Africa, we see in Mozambique, we see in Tanzania. We have everything that these countries have to offer, we have to offer as well. What we don't have is an experience. So we are building a new experience for the touristics and tourists, and for future customers to come to Angola, and we are building all the environment.
Interesting. So making the destination more attractive, yeah, as a market for tourists. On a more business level, are there any specifics that you have to offer to airlines that would entice them to consider Angola as a destination?
Well, as I said previously, we are doing a lot of reforms. One of the consequences of these reforms, sorry my English, is exactly the new Lobito corridor that it's opening now, and it's having a huge funding by the United States and the European Union, exactly to facilitate the trade between the Lobito port in the Atlantic Ocean and between Angola and all the neighbor countries. Our Okavango side of the border, we are also making plans to open that region for tourism, because it's a zone that is not being explored, so it's very, very natural still, and we want to maintain it. So, but some projects are going on the way and are being put in the market.
Very interesting. Kirby, are you happy with what you're hearing from the airports here? Are there any other things that you would ask, other things that you would look for in your experience across the continent?
Look, absolutely. I think every route that you work on and every place that you develop is a slightly different challenge and a slightly different opportunity, and it requires the deployment of a task force that's appropriate to overcome the challenges that are there. You know, there's some areas where things might be more established, and so the reality there is that it's just all about more pragmatical things, or perhaps there's some bureaucracies you need to overcome in order to get from A to B, and that's one sort of challenge. I mean, the challenge that we have in the Angolan example, for example, is something that's growing from a certain base into a new space. And so it requires a different kind of team to approach it and to get into it. And I think that kind of collaborative effort and that working together is what really makes sense. At the end of the day, from an airline's perspective, you know, you're looking at making a massive financial commitment into effectively an experiment. And so, you know, as you do within the context of your bigger route network, you'll assess what the opportunity is, you'll assess what the risks are, and then you need to have conversations with various other parties along the way to say, well, at what point can this make sense for us? And at what point do we have an appetite to forego whatever opportunity cost we foresee, you know, by deploying our metal into that space. And so these are the kinds of conversations and the kinds of things that we need to do in order to get to the right place and to actually get these sorts of routes off the ground.
Yeah. Bernd, in your experience, and any lessons that you've learned along the way in developing routes in Africa?
Important is to have the stamina. Right? You have to stay in there. You have to develop the route. You have to, but also you don't have to start too optimistic. I think we heard this before from Roger Foster as well. So we don't have to be too optimistic, or we have to build it up in a very consequent way. We have to build the partnerships. We have to seek for the continuity in the partnerships. Everything what changes quickly disrupts our operation and forces us to. Let's say to reinvent what we just did, and I think that's a key thing is that the partnerships. A key thing is the continuity and the endurance to make it then work at the end.
Yeah, great. So, Bisey, from your experience, I mean, you've got a great success story sitting here. You've got a great setup by the sounds of it. What are the lessons learned that you went through in getting to this point? What can you share with others in the audience that are perhaps at an earlier stage in the route development process and that are looking to learn from someone like you who's gone through it already?
Yeah, I think the very first thing is to try and get your story to be believed and to be accepted by those that you work with internally. So sometimes it's very difficult to sell your own story, or at least the vision that you have to your own team. So the very first thing that you do is to get your team to buy into your vision. Your team below, the team above you, so it makes sense. Secondly, I think the issue of building a trusting relationship with the other key stakeholders is absolutely necessary, because all of us have got a specific role to play, and also all of us have got specific benefits to reap from this initiative that we're taking. So it's very important to get that message across as well. But when you work with the airlines, obviously it's a matter of give and take. Sometimes what you offer may not necessarily be of interest, of appetite to the airlines. But it's a matter of talking to each other, building relationships, so that over time you find yourself in a space where there is mutual trust, where the two parties or the various parties that are involved in this engagement can then work together. What is also very important is for you as the airline, as the airport, or the group that is involved in air service development in a particular country, that you have your numbers right. You must have the data. You must make sense of that data and be able to convince or else engage with the other parties to see that this data makes sense in the long run. And in Africa, not everybody probably has access to do that type of information, to compute that information and to make sense out of it. Therefore, it's becoming very interesting or important to engage with those who can provide that type of assistance for you to build your business case. So I think it's a multi-dimensional approach, both from within your institutions, your stakeholders, but also people who are sitting on the other side of the table for them to see the sense that you have. Also, to sell your country, again, would require various parties to come together. Of course, you have got your investment promotions agencies who want businesses to come here. You've got the tourism boards, in our case, as I've indicated. So you want to make sure that there is good alignment with all of these parties.
Yeah.
And then, of course, lastly, we must appreciate that it requires some significant investments now to benefit in the future. So it's not a very cheap exercise, but it's an exercise that needs to be undertaken if you want to see future benefits out of it.
Excellent. Some great learnings there. Thanks. And I like what I'm hearing coming through from the earlier sessions. We talked about patience. Martin's stats are obviously spot on here. You're talking about the need for data and data analysis. Well, Geert just gave us a perfect example of how to do that. I want to look forward a bit to what the future holds, with patience, of course. Kirby, what does your route development look like in the future? And let me ask you the question that I'm sure you haven't heard yet since being here, and the question that Bisey would love to ask you. When are you coming to Namibia?
I thought I was in Namibia. No, I mean, look, Namibia is a wonderfully attractive market for us. I think it's the right kind of fit. I mean, it's no secret that it's been on our radar, and we've done a lot of preparatory work looking at this market and these routes. There's, I think the point that you make is so valid in terms of being able to assess the data, but there's also that little reality of what's yet unknown, and that for us is so often the interesting trick. And one of the things that's fascinating, particularly in the African markets, is to try and assess what that price elasticity of demand looks like. Because you'll find a route that is served and that seems to have a fairly solid load factor and is deriving a good yield. And if we can bring in an operation that reduces the cost to access that particular destination or on that route, how many more people are you able to actually drum up as a result of that? And I think that speaks a little bit to that optimism that we were talking about earlier. How realistic can you be on that basis? And so there's almost a little bit of test and learn in the market in that capacity as well, is to figure out, well, this is the data that we know, this is the evidence that we have. What's behind that? What is the bit that's unknown at this stage? And that's where we find a lot of success. So those are the kinds of questions we're asking and the kinds of sums that we're doing as we look to further on our expansion. And we're really excited about it.
Great. Well, we look forward to some announcements maybe at next year's Aviadev. Bernd, a similar question for you. You have a route network in Africa. You mentioned already an interesting part about the route development, developing the routes in your home market to broaden that base of customers. What does the future look like for you, and what opportunities are you seeing in the African continent?
I have to say, patience, I want to relate to this quickly. So patience, we don't have very much because patience costs money. So we have to be very careful when we move forward. The regulatory environments have to be there. We have to have free access to the market. We have to have the traffic rights to improve our route development. So, for example, taking South Africa for us, there are limited frequencies. So we, as a new kid on the block, we don't have opportunities currently to operate into South Africa. So we need to open the market, and we need to make it more accessible for airlines like us, and then we can really contribute to the development also of the whole continent in terms of tourism. I think this is our strength, and this is what we want to do in the future. But we have to. If you ask me for the next development our airline will take, then most probably we want to continue to strengthen our destinations we have currently in the network. So we are talking there about Windhoek, a very important market for us. We are moving to Munich with 2 aircraft. We start building up Munich as a non-stop market as from summer 25. We have other airlines in the group. We could connect at a later stage to Windhoek as well. For example, out of Zurich with Edelweiss Air, we would like to strengthen markets like Tanzania, like Kenya, where we are already active, but the regulatory environment is currently not as such that we can do this easily. So there we have to be patient, but the patience costs money, and therefore we have to we have clearly to define our next steps, and they are related to our destinations we currently operate already.
Okay. Let me ask you another question, and then I'm sure Carlos would love to ask you. When will you start flying to Angola?
To Angola, it's not in the immediate plans. Let's call it like this. Yet.
Well, then over to you, Carlos. What sets Angola apart as a destination? You mentioned you have a lot to offer that perhaps other destinations also have. You mentioned that you're in a regulatory reform process. What sets you apart? What would you like to share with the airlines that might attract them to look into Angola as a destination?
Well, what I like to share is something that we are reforming as well inside the SGA. It's our tariff regime. So we are proposing and working in a new tariff regime. We are in the end of this process, and very soon I believe we can put in the market our new regime that will be very much competitive than the one that we have today. So this is something that we want to announce. As well, maybe a new route very soon will be started from Lubango to Windhoek as well. But let's see when it's approved. Concerning the patients, I would like to refer a Portuguese poet, Fernando Pessoa, that says, "I'm not in a rush, but I have no time to lose." So we in Angola, we are thinking big, but we are taking step by step, very, very strong and very solid steps.
Excellent, excellent. I see the airlines nodding, so I think you did a good job there. I'm sure the conversation will continue. We are nearing the end of our session. What I would like to ask John is to put up the poll results again and see what the audience tells us about who they feel should take the lead in route development. And overwhelmingly, 61% of the 50 or so voters are saying the airport company should take the lead. Interesting results. I'm sure the airports companies here are smiling. Perhaps it is a little bit of a trick question because, as Bisey said at the beginning, it's a collaborative effort. Your thoughts on this, Bisey?
Well, I think it is an obvious outcome, in my view at least, because the airports really play a gluing role in bringing everybody together. In the case of Namibia, I want to say maybe a few final words, that we are a great destination for tourism, as we have seen, and as we'll be seeing over the next couple of days. But more than that, we are on the verge of energy boom with the discovery of oil and gas, green hydrogen projects coming up. And we would really like to encourage our visitors to keep an eye on what's happening in our country, to come and visit us more. But to the airlines that are here, really, Namibia is open to do business, and we would be very happy to welcome you, and we are open to engage. And we look forward to engaging with you over the next 2-3 days, just to make sure that we really put our minds together.
Great.
Yeah.
Kirby, agree with these results, or any final thoughts on route development efforts on the continent?
Yeah, I mean, as I'd mentioned before, I think the task force that needs to be deployed onto each different strategy is relevant, and so I mean, I think that makes sense in that there's almost an immediate sense of urgency that's created from the business of running an airport and needing to have that connectivity brought into it, and therefore encouraging the kinds of networks that would come out of it. But equally, if the opportunity is there for the airline to do good business, there's nothing that would stop you from that. So again, I would go back to it's valid, and I think that's probably most frequently true, but it depends on the nature of the challenge that lays before the parties at hand,
Sure.
Yeah.
Every challenge requires a custom solution.
It does, especially in Africa.
Okay, great. Carlos, your thoughts on this? Does this make sense and align with your plans, your thinking? Anything you take away from this that you'll take home and incorporate?
This is exactly what we're doing. We, as an airport company and our civil aviation authority, we are taking the lead with our tourism board. But it's not just 2 entities or 3. It has to be the whole economy shareholders that have to be aligned and to be walking exactly the same route, and not some going forward, others backwards. So yes, I agree.
Great. Bernd, any closing thoughts from your side?
Yeah, I would see it slightly different. So I think it's a national effort. So the country has to decide what it wants to have. So is it a tourism destination? Is it a business destination? Is it what do we want to be? As we have to define our business model, the country has clearly to decide what they want to have. And once they decide, they have to ensure that the infrastructure is there, that the guests feel welcome, that it's easy to travel, and the airport can only do the last piece. So it's the attractiveness of the country for the people to visit the country for whatever reason, tourism, business, for whatever reason. And once this is given, then I think the collaborative efforts of airlines, airports, and other bodies in the country, they have to make sure that they take the best out of it and they develop step by step, as Carlos said, they develop step by step the traffic and it's a continued support.
Excellent. I think you've summed it up very nicely. There's a need for the destination to be attractive, for all the stakeholders in the country to work together to make sure that what it has to offer to the market is of interest to the market. And then there's the need for airports to play a key role in bringing those stakeholders together and delivering that continued support to the airlines that you require. With that, I'd like to thank you for your insights. I think it was very interesting from my perspective. I hope the audience also found it. People are still here, even though lunch is ready, so I think you did a great job. Thank you to the audience for staying behind, and of course, the delegates are still here, so if you have any questions, we won't be able to take them now, but please approach any of them, and I'm sure they'd be happy to engage. For now, please join me in thanking the panel.